Anna stood at her mother's apartment door, her heart beating faster than usual. Next to her, standing tall and elegant, was Daniel. His presence at the threshold of her childhood home filled Anna with a trembling sense of anticipation. Something important was about to happen, something that could change everything. Today, her mother would meet the man she loved for the very first time, and Anna wanted nothing more than for it to go perfectly. She adjusted her hair, took a deep breath, and reached for the doorbell. But Daniel gently caught her hand, gave it an encouraging squeeze, and pressed the button himself. A minute later, the door swung open. Her mother stood there, momentarily confused about who had come to visit. Then a smile lit up her face as she recognized Anna, glowing with happiness, and the refined man at her side. There was that brief, inevitable awkward pause. Daniel, usually so confident, seemed slightly uneasy, while her mother struggled for a moment to find the words to invite them in. The hesitation only added warmth and authenticity to the moment. "Mom, this is Daniel. Remember I told you about him?" Anna said. "Hello," Daniel chimed in right away. Come in, my dears," her mother finally found her voice, stepping aside to let them in. They moved into the kitchen, where a fragrant teapot and a freshly baked, still warm apple cake were waiting on the table. But no one was thinking about food. Anna, overwhelmed by nerves and eager to make a good impression, sat close to Daniel, as if drawing strength and reassurance from him. The conversation flowed easily at first. With her usual grace, her mother asked about Daniel's job, his interests. Daniel was impeccable. He spoke with confidence about his work, about the importance of building a strong family, of creating a warm and stable home. He mentioned how his family's well-being had been built through his parents' hard work, emphasizing the value of saving and being financially responsible. At one point, when her mother asked how he envisioned their future together, Daniel looked at Anna, then back at her mother, and with a slight smile said, "The most important thing is to keep everything under control. When you do that, happiness and stability are guaranteed." Anna couldn't take her eyes off him. She hummed on his every word, nodding in agreement. And whenever Daniel paused to think, Anna would jump in, helping him finish a sentence or offer the right phrase so the conversation wouldn't stall. She did everything she could to make this meeting flawless and to make sure her mother was impressed with her choice. They didn't stay long, just about an hour. They had movie tickets. Daniel said goodbye first and headed to the car. Anna lingered in the hallway to hug her mother goodbye. But her mother looked a little dazed, her usual liveliness replaced by quiet introspection. Anna kissed her on the cheek and whispered, heart racing, "So? What do you think of him, Mom? Isn't he wonderful?" Her mother exhaled slowly, gently stroked her daughter's arm, and said softly, almost regretfully, "Sweetheart, he's not the one for you." That same evening, Anna and her mother sat at the kitchen table, drinking tea with honey as they always did. But now, a heavy silence hung between them. The apple cake lay mostly untouched on their plates. Anna was still shaken by her mother's words and couldn't let them go. "Mom, why did you say that?" Anna's voice trembled with hurt. "Daniel is amazing. He's smart, educated, thoughtful. He really cares about the future. What don't you like?" Her mother sighed and set down her cup. She looked at her daughter with a mixture of tenderness and a sorrow she couldn't quite explain. "Anna, sweetheart," she began, her voice apologetic, as if asking forgiveness for her feelings, "I don't know how to put it into words. I don't feel at ease with him. There's something about him I can't place, but it gives me a chill." "A chill?" Anna raised her eyebrows in disbelief. "Mom, he's just a serious person. He's not the type to babble meaninglessly." "I understand, honey. I know you're in love," her mother said gently, staring off into the distance. "But trust me, a mother's heart rarely leads her astray. This isn't what you dreamed of. I know that. Please, just think it through. Don't rush into something you might not be able to undo." Her mother's words only fueled Anna's anger. She felt misunderstood, like her feelings were being dismissed. "I know what I want, and I'll make my own decisions." Anna stood up sharply from the table, her eyes burning with frustration. "If you must know, we're going to Daniel's country house tomorrow to meet his parents. And everything's going to be just fine. You'll see." Her mother gave a faint smile, said nothing, just shook her head. But the sadness in her eyes lingered. Anna, deeply hurt and feeling unfairly judged, turned and stormed out of the kitchen. A minute later, the sound of a door closing echoed from her room. Her mother sat alone in silence, her eyes fixed on the half-eaten apple cake. A heavy, motherly worry weighed in her chest. The morning was sunny, the day full of promise. When Anna woke up, she wasn't thinking about her mother's concerns, or maybe she had pushed them so deep down that they couldn't ruin this important day. Her heart was set on proving, to herself and to her mom, that Daniel was the one she wanted to spend her life with. Anna got ready carefully. She styled her hair, applied a light touch of makeup, and made sure everything was just right. When she stepped outside, Daniel was already waiting by his car, leaning casually against it. His face lit up with anticipation. They left the city behind. The August sun bathed the countryside, the roadside fields shimmered gold with ripe wheat, and an endless blue sky stretched above them. The road led to a quiet, scenic spot far from the urban rush, Daniel's parents' summer house. Anna tried to keep only positive thoughts in her head, picturing how wonderful the visit would be, how she'd love his family, and how she'd tell her mom afterward, with a smile, that she had been wrong. Daniel drove calmly, confidently. They didn't speak much, but at one point, he turned slightly toward Anna with a faint, cautionary smile and said, "Hey, and, just so you know, my parents are, well, particular. Everything has to be perfect at the summer house." He paused, then added with the tone of someone giving important instructions, "Please try to stay on the stone paths. You know, so you don't trample the grass. And also, if you feel like picking anything from the bushes or trees, don't. They'll bring everything to the table, washed and ready. That's just how it's done there." Anna nodded, taking his words as the harmless quirks of older people used to routine. Her own family was much more relaxed, but she figured this neatness and these rules were just part of their comfortable lifestyle. In a way, it even charmed her, so orderly, everything in its place. She looked forward to seeing this picture-perfect summer home Daniel had always spoken about with such pride. They turned off the paved road onto a dirt path and pulled up in front of tall wrought iron gates. Beyond them stretched a perfectly manicured garden as far as the eye could see. Not a leaf out of place on the stone walkways. The lawn looked freshly cut, so even, it could have been trimmed with scissors. As they entered the property, Anna saw a solid, well-kept summer house surrounded by blooming flowers. It was flawless, almost unreal, like something out of a gardening magazine. Daniel's parents were already outside. His father was doing something near a shed, and his mother was watering flowers by the house. As soon as the car pulled in, they both stopped and came to greet them. Daniel's father, William, was a sturdy older man with perfect posture and an authoritative gaze. His mother, Margaret, was full of cheerful chatter and a constant smile. They welcomed the couple with warm hugs and friendly greetings. Margaret talked nonstop, her voice ringing through the garden, but as Anna tried to read the woman in front of her, she felt oddly distant. She seemed warm, even sincere, but there was no real warmth behind the performance. It felt like a perfectly oiled machine of hospitality, not a genuine family welcome. Remembering Daniel's advice, Anna was extra careful. She walked strictly along the stone paths, admiring the vibrant flower beds. She didn't even think of reaching for the apples hanging on the trees or the clusters of ripe grapes trailing over the gazebo. Meanwhile, William and Daniel began setting up a heavy oak table in the yard under a wide-branched apple tree. Margaret moved swiftly in and out of the house, bringing dish after dish, fresh vegetables, colorful salads, homemade pastries, and juicy roasted meats. "Margaret, can I help with anything?" Anna offered, watching her bustle around. Margaret turned and, waving a hand dismissively, said, "Oh no, dear, you're a guest. Guests don't set the table." Go with Danny, admire our roses, they're in full bloom right now. Anna felt a bit awkward, but Daniel took her hand and led her toward the flower bushes, and she followed without protest. Just then, there was a hesitant knock at the gate. William turned, his face tightening slightly. A man stood on the other side, middle-aged, probably a neighbor, shifting uncomfortably from foot to foot. "William, sorry to bother you," the neighbor began, his voice apologetic. "I've got a flat tire and no way to get to town. Could I borrow your pump, just to make it to the shop?" Margaret, hearing this, let out a sharp snort and said without turning her head, "You should have your own. Don't go bothering the neighbors." William walked slowly to the gate and, without raising his voice but with a chilling tone, said, "You heard her. Get going. Don't disturb our rest." The neighbor looked down, mumbled something, and walked away. A cold shiver ran down Anna's spine. She hadn't even had time to fully process what had happened when Daniel, sensing her discomfort, gently tugged her toward a beautifully carved gazebo wrapped in ivy. Once the table was fully set, Daniel's parents called them over. Anna and Daniel sat at the large oak table, now overflowing with food. William waved his arms cheerfully, urging them to dig in, and proudly began talking about his garden's bounty. "Here, Anna, try our cucumbers. Crispy, juicy. And the tomatoes, did you see them? Perfect, every one. And mind you, no chemicals, everything grown by hand. Every piece of fruit is our hard-earned money, our daily bread." With her usual fixed smile, Margaret poured fragrant apple compote into glasses and carefully served fresh salad and slices of roasted meat onto the plates. She nodded toward her husband with pride and said, "Yes, dear, we made all this with our own hands. Didn't ask anyone for anything. And our Danny is the finest bachelor in the whole area. So hold on to us tight, sweetheart, and you'll have everyone's respect." Daniel sat beside Anna, smiling faintly but barely speaking, leaving the conversation to his parents. From time to time, he glanced at Anna, as if checking her reaction, and something about that look made her feel uneasy. She tried to keep the conversation going, complimenting the food and admiring the tidy summer house, but something didn't feel quite right. Maybe it was just the cool breeze drifting through the garden. Or maybe it was her mother's words from the day before, worming their way into her heart and making her doubt the sincerity of all this hospitality. Daniel, though smiling, seemed distant. Maybe, Anna reasoned, it just wasn't customary in their family to show emotion in front of others. Suddenly, William slammed down his fork. His gaze turned sharp, like a predator spotting prey, and locked onto something at the far end of the garden. He jumped up from the table with a growl. "Oh, I'll show you now." He moved surprisingly fast for his age. As he stormed off into the yard, he grabbed a long, polished wooden stick that seemed to have been propped against the house just for moments like this. Anna sat frozen, completely confused. She turned to Daniel and Margaret. But at the table, no one except her seemed to react. Margaret and Daniel continued eating without a flicker of concern. Still stunned, Anna slowly lifted a forkful of salad, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Then, from the back of the garden, came a faint squeak, then a sob. Anna tensed. Daniel and Margaret finally looked up from their plates. A minute later, William emerged from behind the bushes. The sight of him made Anna flinch. In one hand, he held the same wooden stick, in the other, he was dragging a terrified boy of about 10 by the collar. The boy's ear was red, his eyes full of tears. He whimpered and struggled to get free, but William's grip was like iron. There was a cruel grin on his face. Well, got you this time, little thief." William barked, hauling the boy closer to the table. "Thought you'd sneak off like always? Let's see what you've got." The boy shrank back, trying to shield his pocket, but William shook him roughly. A few ripe, golden pears spilled onto the ground. Margaret, who'd been silent until now, suddenly perked up. Her face stretched into a wide, unpleasant smile. "Come on, Danny," she sang out, looking at her son. "You're the future head of this family." Show him who's boss. Show him what happens to little freeloaders. He needs to learn not to steal what isn't his. Let him remember this for life. Daniel stood up without hesitation. A look came over his face that Anna had never seen before, a mix of arrogance and chilling detachment. He walked up to the boy, who was trembling, and grabbed him by the ear. Stealing from us, huh? Daniel hissed through clenched teeth, pulling the boy upward by the ear. You better remember what happens if you ever step on our land again. We'll rip your ears off. The boy sobbed again. Anna stared at the scene, her heart pounding with horror. This wasn't discipline, this was the humiliation of a defenseless child. In Daniel and his parents' eyes, she saw only the greedy fire of people obsessed with possession, willing to protect their harvest at any cost. Their facade of decency crumbled, revealing something vile and cruel underneath. Daniel. Anna's voice shook with outrage. What are you doing? Stop. Let him go. He's just a child. Margaret turned toward her, the same smile still frozen on her face, now even colder and more condescending. Don't interfere, dear, she said smoothly. This is our business. Those neighbor kids have gotten out of control, always sneaking around to steal from us. If we don't teach him a lesson now, he'll grow up to be a criminal. Then she turned to her husband. William, take his pants off. The boy screamed in terror. Something snapped inside Anna. She looked at Daniel, the man she had loved, but now all she saw was a reflection of these heartless, monstrous people. This wasn't just greed. It was a sickness of the soul, hidden behind polished manners and a well-kept home. You enjoy his suffering. Anna cried out, and at that moment, Daniel turned to face her. Their eyes met. In his, she saw cold, calculated cruelty, the kind that had always lurked behind his polite smile. It wasn't the look of someone in love. It was the look of a predator. Anna summoned every ounce of strength and stood up abruptly. Her voice, shaky at first, grew firm and loud, cutting through the quiet garden and silencing the boy's sobs and the adults' vile laughter. This is wrong. I can't let this happen. I won't let you treat my child this way someday. I won't let it happen. I will not marry you. Daniel and his parents went silent. Their faces twisted in shock and anger. They hadn't expected this kind of resistance, this sudden, harsh judgment from sweet Anna. At that moment, the boy, sensing his chance, broke free from their grasp and darted behind Anna like a frightened rabbit. Without waiting for a reaction, Anna grabbed his hand tightly and marched toward the garden gate. Daniel's whole perfect family remained frozen on their flawless lawn. From behind, William's bewildered voice rang out. Where is she going? Then came Margaret's sharp, sneering tone, dripping with contempt as she addressed her son. Let her go, Danny. She'll regret it and come crawling back. Anna didn't look back. She led the boy through the tall gate and onto the dusty country road. Once she was sure they were safe, she crouched down in front of him. You need to understand, it's not okay to take what doesn't belong to you, she said gently. Do you see what can happen? You got lucky I was there. Otherwise, they would have torn you apart. The boy, his eyes wide with fear, whispered. Thank you, ma'am. I won't do it again. Go home now, quickly, Anna said, giving him a soft push. The boy took off running down the road, not once looking back. Anna stood up straight. She looked around and spotted a small street sign on the nearest house with a name and number. Reaching into her bag, she pulled out her phone and quickly called a cab. She got home just before sunset. Her mother met her at the door, eyes full of worry, but as soon as she saw Anna's face, she wrapped her in a tight hug. Holding back tears, Anna poured everything out in one breath, the fake hospitality, the cruelty toward the little boy, Daniel's true colors, and her decision. Her mother listened silently, stroking her hair. You were right, Mom, Anna said through sobs. You saw it all, you felt it. And I was so blind. Today I saw them for who they really are. It was awful, Mom. I couldn't stay there. Her mother sat her down at the kitchen table, poured her a warm mug of mint tea, and set a plate with her favorite pie in front of her. "There, sweetheart," her mom said softly, lovingly. "My heart just knew something wasn't right with him. But you know what? I'm proud of you. So proud. You didn't hesitate to walk away the moment you saw something unjust. You stood by your values, by your conscience. That means everything. And you're right. What matters most is that your man is kind, that he values people, not just himself. A man like Daniel, with a family like that, you're better off without him." Anna looked at her mother, and suddenly the weight in her chest lifted. Her mother's words were the highest praise, and the deepest comfort. She nodded, wiping away her tears. They stayed at the kitchen table long into the evening, talking about simple, familiar things. That night, Anna not only found peace within herself but also strengthened the bond with her mother, realizing that true love and support had been right beside her all along. She no longer doubted that real happiness, with someone truly worthy, was still ahead of her. And now, let me know, did you enjoy the story? Make sure to subscribe to our channel. A brand new story drops tomorrow. Don't miss it.